19th Convoy 150th.
You say if we let yours going down this way, they're going to kill us.
It's a roadblock outside the small Arabic town of Wadi al-Tarif. Just one of hundreds of real-world obstacles the soldiers of the 150th will come up against as they prepare for duty in Iraq.
Now's the time to learn things. You don't wait till you get down range and you're dodging bullets or what have you to try to prepare. You got to prepare now.
In this scenario, set within a Middle Eastern country, the weapons are real, and so are the villagers who come from all across the Middle East, and includes Kurdish translator Shwin Karim, who also watches for mistakes in the soldiers' gestures and body language.
So if I see something wrong, I'm going to tell them this is not correct.
As these convoys make their way through the various areas and into some of the towns and villages, pieces of cardboard, stacks of sticks in the middle of the road, and even a kid's teddy bear can mean disaster.
They'll destroy a vehicle, pretty good sized vehicle.
Ronald Bennett keeps an eye out for improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, created when the enemy takes everyday objects and packs them full of explosives.
I'm looking at the road where we're going. I'm trying to look at the buildings. I'm trying to take everything in at once.
As a driver, James Adkins is already familiar with IEDs, but he says this scenario teaches a huge lesson.
If you concentrate too much on one thing, you're going to miss everything else going on around it.
Here, a simple truck or van going by can be a farmer carrying fruit to market or a suicide bomber.
I can't see inside the vehicle. This is the third time he's passed. I'm wondering why he's passing here.
A wrong decision here can take them out of the game, but in Iraq, it's not a game, and the goal of this training is to make sure their first reaction is the one that will keep them alive.
This is the last tweaking, the last getting your act together before we're actually there.
In Fort Polk, Louisiana, I'm Craig McKee reporting. AM package for January 19th. The snow blew in so quickly this morning it actually covered area highways before salt crews could get the upper hand. And with a fast blast of winter snow this morning, one man coming out of his Cross Lanes home here found out the hard way that his driveway was much slicker than he thought.
As he started off the hill, the car started to slide. It wouldn't stop, and it crossed the roadway here and jumped into the lake where it turned upside down and ended up on its top in the water.
Submerged completely underwater, the driver broke out a window and swam through the cold rush of ice water to the bank.
The driver's fine. He's just cold. He got, I guess, mild hypothermia or something, but other than that, he just got to get warmed up.
Salt trucks hit Interstate 64 hard as the morning went on, but despite all their efforts, a number of drivers still lost control on area bridges. The driver of this truck rolled 7 times after hitting her brakes at the wrong time.
They just need to make sure that they slow down before it, not to hit their brakes on one of the bridge overpasses because they're just sheeted ice.
Highway crews came out and treated this bridge, and police on scene can't believe the driver was able to walk away with just a few scratches.
She's very lucky. One of the other paramedics that just left with her asked her if she would buy him a lottery ticket.
Along Interstate 64, I'm WOWK's Craig McKee reporting for the Weather Channel. Along Interstate 64, I'm Craig McKee reporting.
You've got Jason, 3 kinds of Jason, 3 kinds of Michael Myers, 2 kinds of Scarecrow.
Ken Fox is an expert when it comes to scary costumes. In fact, most of the masks on these shelves are from a scary movie at one time or another. In the business for almost 30 years now, one might think he'd be the furthest thing from a link to national politics.
Oh, you want the scary stuff.
As an international supplier of costumes, these political masks ship to any place someone wants to make an impression, or, as Ken says, an impersonation.
And the masks are only as good as the people inside, because if you don't do this hunch thing, and you don't do this, and you don't shake your head for Nixon, none of that means anything.
But to be a mask or not to be a mask is not, however, up to the political figure to decide. Ken explains as people in the public's eye, well, they're just fair game.
Yeah, I got just a few George W's, but this is all the Hillarys. Look at all the Hillarys. We got 2 or 3 dozen.
Now, Ken says Hillary is here pretty much by default. You see, every president gets his first lady, and until the votes are actually counted, it's impossible to say whether or not Hillary will be marked down come 2008.
He's marked way down from $21 to $5.
John Kerry, once a contender for the White House, is already discounted. Cheney's mask, he says, comes with a hunting hat, and depending on how history plays out, He also says many of these limited edition masks can also become priceless.
You know, like they collect political badges, you know, vote for Ike and all that kind of stuff. Same thing with the mask.
And he also adds here that to sit on this shelf as a handcrafted mask really means, well, you finally, in one way or another, made a mark in history.
Either famous or infamous. You're either in a scandal or you're well known as a political figure or a wealthy figure or a historical figure.
Ken says Nixon sums up all those characteristics, and it could be why he's the most popular.
Every year we sell a couple dozen Nixon masks, yeah.
Pittsburgh Refinery's mobile command post rolled on scene around 8 Tuesday morning, more than 8 hours from the time neighbors say they first realized there was a problem.
I seen the fire truck come by with his siren on and everything, and I see him pull in there. And since we'd already had one spill already, I knew to go right into the house immediately.
Colleen Hayes, who complained of
of the tanker car.
Those evacuated set up in the high school, which was closed for the day because of the emergency. The original shelter in place started as just a half-mile radius near the rail cars and the general area right here in Worthington and Rayson. Well, that quickly grew up to a mile radius from those rail cars, and then with the early morning winds that went across the river into northern parts of Ironton, Hanging Rock, and all the way to the Scioto, Lawrence County lines. And that shelter lasted until 10 Tuesday morning when CSX finally gave the all clear.
They found the leak earlier and they tightened the bolts, and then they've had them pressure test the car, and everything's tested safe.
There's still no word on how much acid leaked from the tanker, but there is word from those on scene that this is not the first time this tanker's leaked.
It was repaired, I believe, 2 days ago and somewhere in Kentucky.
While CSX investigators look into that, they tell us air sensors in the rail yard never registered above normal vapor limits throughout the entire incident. With local news in Raceland, Kentucky, Craig McKee, 13 News. Dave Osborne began turning glass over 35 years ago.
Glass work is a passion. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
And for Dave, starting up Osborne Modern Glass Company was a dream come true. And now his wares are sold throughout 44 states and the world if you count internet sales. And while plates, bowls, and pitchers are his bread and butter, there's a new piece of glasswork that's becoming the heart of his hobby.
You take somebody's mother, grandmother, uncle, whatever, and you're creating a one-of-a-kind work of art for them. And that makes it special for them.
But it's not as much of who the heart is for that's unique. It's truly what's inside.
We can take just a small amount of ashes, is all it takes, and we can put it in and satisfy everybody in the family with it.
Yes, you heard him correctly. Cremated remains are rolled into the glass during the heart-making process.
It really, first reaction, it gets kind of, you go, oh, you know, wait a minute now.
Each heart is truly one of a kind and comes complete engraved with the loved one's name and any inscription the family chooses. For Dave, who's spun glass for over 3 decades, these forever hearts are perhaps the most fulfilling work he's ever done.
Knowing I'm doing a service to somebody that can bring a smile to their face because they'll have something to remember their loved one forever. A smile is priceless, so that's what makes it worthwhile with these things for me.
With Hometown News in Milton, Craig McKee, 13 News.
Go faster! Faster!
It's just another day at Cedar Ridge Nursing Home.
He's got the fastest little feet you ever saw.
As the state's best geriatric athletes prepare for the next level.
I'm going to try to go for it, you know, go for the goal.
Tracy Hodge is one of 6 athletes here who are writing a chapter in the history books. And not just here in West Virginia. You see, these athletes formed the first ever national team to compete overseas in Prague for the 4th annual International Jerry Olympics.
It's a thrill and an honor to be the first team from the United States to go. And I'm very excited about it.
Carol Tolliver is a double amputee, and apparently, according to her coach, Bert Smith, had some doubts several years ago about being an athlete.
We set up a practice area and she tried it out, and after that she's been with me ever since.
And now, well, she's the team captain. Kind of a surprise, she says, to her daughter and granddaughter.
They didn't think I'd ever be able to do anything like that, or that amputees or handicapped could do things like that.
But if the medals around her room and trophies on the shelf are any indication, the majority of which I should mention here are all first-place awards, she should do pretty good in Prague. But she says that she just can't rest on those medals and awards and the skills she's practiced in the hallways at Cedar Ridge.
There's always somebody out there that beats you and you can beat you, and you have to get better to keep them from beating you.
They want the gold. They want the big gold.
Although Jerry Olympics are nothing new, it was actually Bert Smith who brought the idea to Cedar Ridge 8 years ago.
It shows them that their life is not over. They're not laying in a bed or sitting in a chair staring out the window. We make sure they have something to do, and Jerry Olympics is part of that.
A state police helicopter hovered around the area of 12th Street and 12th Avenue as the area task force took down another group of people on their list. Although the list was confidential, we do know the majority of those on it had outstanding warrants.
Some of them have been arrested on federal charges, most on state charges.
Cabell County prosecutor Chris Childs accompanied the task force members as they raided home after home, and he says some of those targeted were also known drug dealers. Specifically, an officer on the scene at this house says they've conducted a number of buys at the property over the months. These police raids in this roundup pretty much covered the whole city of Huntington, targeting over 50 different people in a way that Childs says is just cleaning house.
We're attacking the supply side as much as we can.
Besides the federal and state charges, we're also told that it's a dream come true. After all, she'd met the man of her dreams.
Her flower girls.
Samantha Menezes' wedding was a dream come true. After all, she'd met the man of her dreams.
I mean, from the first time I saw him, I was out with my cousins and I said, I'm going to marry that man.
That man is Jefferson Chavez Menezes from Brazil. They married in April and then hired an attorney to file to get his work visa.
We told her our story and everything, and she said everything would be okay, that we're married, and we filed the paperwork.
Everything appeared to be going smoothly until 6 months passed without any update on his status.
And they said, yeah, it's taken longer than the normal processing time, so you need to go to your local office and just sit down and talk to them and see what's wrong.
On October 31st, they came to the regional office for Citizenship and Immigration Services in Charleston in search of a resolution to his work visa. The hope was to follow the American dream, get a job, stay here in America, and continue to live their life in Scott Depot. But instead, 2 officers came out, put him in cuffs, and he was taken here to South Central Regional Jail.
And they just took him.
She says agents at ISC told her a warrant was issued 2 years ago after Jefferson failed to appear in court, part of his immigration processing when he first entered the country. But Samantha says her husband never received a notice to go to court, and no one with Immigration Services said a thing about it when they began paperwork in April or during the subsequent visits in June and July.
You know, we have criminals who do worse things that don't get that type of punishment, you know. I mean, his only mistake was loving me.
Now Jefferson faces deportation, a 10-year ban from entering the States, and ultimately a long-distance marriage held together with love and government red tape. In Scott Depot, West Virginia, I'm Craig McKee for CBS News.
Met my wife in it 50 years ago and still have her in the car.
Jimmy Taylor's first car was this 1914 Ford.
You just crank it with a crank to start it, see. But you don't, it's too hard on me now. I don't want to start it.
But since that first purchase 5 decades ago, investing in the past just kind of took over.
This here's a 36 Ford Coupe. This is a 1930 Ford that's been fixed up real nice. This here's a 56 Thunderbird. That's a pretty nice car.
The cars range in age and luxury, each with its own history and connection to not only the past, but the present.
This here is the same as on the new Chryslers, this Insignia. Now, if you notice the new Chrysler, they put that on there, and those convertibles has got the top stacked up on the trunk like this car here.
Now, would this actually go 120, 125?
I may, I don't know, but some of these old cars would fool you now. They'd run.
Jimmy Taylor says the museum he's created with his car collection is free for the public to enjoy. He said he really wanted to make it that way so everyone could see just how things have evolved since Ford's first.
No use of having them if people can't see it.
He says kids who come through marvel at how few modern conveniences there were back in the day. For example, if you wanted to keep your feet warm back in 1914, well, you'd better have some hot coals ready to fill this box up so you can put your feet on it. And also kerosene in your headlamps so others can see you on the road. And if you were a little warm, well, by the 1930s, you could use a vacuum-powered fan for a little breeze.
And it's also, if you want to, it's got a cigarette lighter. If you don't light somebody's cigarette in the back seat, it works.
This 1930 Fleetwood Cadillac is perhaps his prized possession. Only 350 were ever made, and most were stripped for its enormous engine.
They took the motors out for sawmill motors and junk, chopped up and destroyed.
He's had people from around the world come in to see his collection, and some who just come by to rekindle romance or memories.
The old people comes in here, they just, they light up like I do when they see them.
What's close to. Dispatchers here at Cabell 911 take over 21,000 calls a year. And while many of those are legitimate emergencies, others are nothing more than a call for a free ride.
You're not paying money up front for the ambulance, and you go to the hospital and you get treated, and then you leave.
And as a result, many of those taken to area hospitals are leaving Cabell Emergency Services with the tab.
I mean, we've had homeless people that had owed us in excess of $14,000. And we'll never get the money.
And part two of the problem, drug seekers, those using emergency medicine for their own gain.
There's guys calling ambulances and faking stuff to get in there ahead of everybody else to try to get pain pills.
Dr. John Morgan is a physician at HIMG, and he says that, well, some of the seekers have truly mastered the whole process.
You know, kidney stones, people get narcotics for kidney stones. People prick their finger and drop blood in their urine to say they have a kidney stone. There was a fellow that used to punch a wall and break his hand and come in to get pain pills.
He adds that drug addicts and dealers are also keeping track of which hospital is taking trauma patients on which nights, along with the doctor's schedules.
They will call and ask who's working in different ERs because they know who will hand it out and who won't.
It's a problem.
With no clear solution, Gordon Mary says that Cabell EMS right now is losing over $200,000 a year to non-emergency calls where people are just using them for a ride. With local news in Huntington, Craig McKee, 13 News.
Painted over the years is mainly north work and
Her flower girls.
Samantha Menezes' wedding was a dream come true. After all, she'd met the man of her dreams.
I mean, from the first time I saw him, I was out with my cousins and I said, I'm going to marry that man.
That man is Jefferson Chavez Menezes from Brazil. They married in April and then hired an attorney to file to get his work visa.
We told her our story and everything, and she said everything would be okay, that we're married, and we filed the paperwork.
Everything appeared to be going smoothly until 6 months passed without any update on his status.
And they said, yeah, it's taken longer than the normal processing time, so you need to go to your local office and just sit down and talk to them and see what's wrong.
On October 31st, they came to the regional office for Citizenship and Immigration Services in Charleston in search of a resolution to his work visa. The hope was to follow the American dream, get a job, stay here in America, and continue to live their life in Scott Depot. But instead, 2 officers came out, put him in cuffs, and he was taken here to South Central Regional Jail.
And they just took him.
She says agents at ISC told her a warrant was issued 2 years ago after Jefferson failed to appear in court, part of his immigration processing, when he first entered the country. But Samantha says her husband never received a notice to go to court, and no one with Immigration Services said a thing about it when they began paperwork in April or during the subsequent visits in June and July.
You know, we have criminals who do worse things that don't get that type of punishment, you know. I mean, his only mistake was loving me.
Now Jefferson faces deportation, a 10-year ban from entering the States, and ultimately a long-distance marriage held together with love and government red tape. In Scott Depot, West Virginia, I'm Craig McKee for CBS News.
Met my wife in it 50 years ago and still have her in the car.
Jimmy Taylor's first car was this 1914 Ford.
You just crank it with a crank to start it, see. But you don't, it's too hard on me now. I don't want to start it.
But since that first purchase 5 decades ago, investing in the past just kind of took over.
This here's a 36 Ford Coupe. This is a 1930 Ford that's been fixed up real nice. This here's a 56 Thunderbird. That's a pretty nice car.
The cars range in age and luxury, each with its own history and connection to not only the past, but the present.
This here's the same as on the new Chryslers, this Insignia. Now, if you notice the new Chrysler, they put that on there, and those convertibles has got the top stacked up on the trunk like this car here.
Now, would this actually go 120, 125?
Well, I may, I don't know, but some of these old cars would fool you now. They'd run.
Jimmy Taylor says the museum he's created with his car collection is free for the public to enjoy. He said he really wanted to make it that way so everyone could see just how things have evolved since Ford's first.
No use in having them if people can't see it.
He says kids who come through marvel at how few modern conveniences there were back in the day. For example, if you wanted to keep your feet warm back in 1914, well, you'd better have some hot coals ready to fill this box up so you can put your feet on it. And also kerosene in your headlamps so others can see you on the road. And if you were a little warm, well, by the 1930s, you could use a vacuum-powered fan for a little breeze.
And it's also, if you want to, it's got a cigarette lighter. If you want to light somebody's cigarette in the back seat, it works.
This 1930 Fleetwood Cadillac is perhaps his prized possession. Only 350 were ever made, and most were stripped for its enormous engine.
They took the motors out for sawmill motors and chopped up and destroyed.
He's had people from around the world come in to see his collection, and some who just come by to rekindle romance or memories.
The old people comes in here, they just, they light up like I do when they see them.
And I'm Craig McKee, live in the capital city. Wacky tobacco, pot, marijuana, whatever you call it. Hey, good morning. I'm the winner, by the way. Just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, I just wanted to announce it here.
Congratulations.
Okay, not really, not really.
13 News reporter Craig McKee is live for us this morning at Charleston Jagger Airport.
Modeled themselves after cutting prices, but now it appears that
He's stuck in the middle.
Always in the middle, getting all the grief from you, and no, that's not true.
Rick gives it to you almost
Rick
every
does,
day.
and I'm glad he's off this week. You're a little less. You're a little less of a grip on the. Yeah. Anyway.
Any concern? Any concern? Any concern at all? Any concern?
Hey, Craig's leaving.
I told you not to talk about that. Welcome to Woodrum Lake in Jackson County. It's one of the most picturesque locations in the area, and they say it has some of the best bass fishing around. That is, until recently.
13 News reporter Craig McKee is live.
We're speaking about dioxin dust.
Now, Rick, I have a blast working with you every morning, but I was kind of hoping Craig was going to take your job. I was really kind of hoping for that. But Craig's leaving us.
I'm stuck with you.
In Jackson County, live in South Charleston, live in Charleston, live in Charleston, live in Kanawha County. Easy for me to say. I'm Craig McKee reporting.
I think pretty much as long as I can remember my time with West Virginia media, I've been living in the shadow of Craig McKee. Now, let me explain this. Craig, when I first interviewed with Holly Shannon, this was probably back in July or August of 2002, she said, we have got this great guy coming in from Phoenix. You're going to absolutely love this guy. He's coming in from a big market. He's really, really talented. We think that he's going to just fit in perfectly here and is going to really elevate things. His name is Craig McKee. I think you're going to really, really enjoy working with him. But little did I know that we'd end up working together so much and that I'd be following in your footsteps sort of this whole time. But it struck me even from the very beginning. I remember she specifically talked about how talented she thought she was, and obviously Holly has made a lot of really good calls when it comes to hiring people and picking people who were talented. The thing, Craig, that I think it has been so impressive to me about what you've done here is your versatility. I mean, whether it's going out and covering a military story like nobody else can, or whether it's out in the middle of floods, or whether it's in the middle of just snow, and just even having lighthearted moments during the middle of very serious times, That's the thing I think that separates you and makes you so much more talented than probably anybody else around here. And there's no question that taking and going from a morning show and then going to a morning anchor position and still being able to report, that's the thing that makes you so versatile, and that's the thing that allows a TV station like KGUN to get a really, really valuable person. We know that you're going to do great things out there, and at the same time, I'm glad to see you go, frankly, because I'm tired of living in your shadow. I'm looking forward to making my own way a little bit around here. Best of luck. We're going to miss you around here, pal.
Craig McKee, I have 2 words for you: monster truck. I feel like you and I were full-fledged West Virginians after we got to host the monster truck rally over at the Big Sandy Superstore Arena months ago in Huntington. Had a blast with you. I will miss your bloopers, the things that people didn't even get to see in the mornings. You are a fantastic person and a fantastic reporter. Good luck anchoring in Arizona. Isn't it like 105 degrees there? So enjoy the weather, enjoy your new crew. We will miss you. Buena suerte.
Well, I guess this is it. You know, I'm trying to pull myself together here in between shows. We're actually doing the show right now, which you're in, which is really tough to watch because I know you're almost done working here. But, you know, people got to go, and they got to go, they got to go. And even people like you, which really suck at their job, can find work other places. But hey, if you're happier, we're happier for you. We enjoyed the time working with you. Paul's almost inconsolable. I mean, he's just, I'm surprised he's doing the show this morning, to be honest with you. Paul's had such a close working relationship with you over the years. You'll hear from him, I'm sure, throughout the morning here. But we're happy for you, and we wish you luck. We'll miss you, and the show just won't be the same without you. There's no doubt about that. So good luck in Arizona, and remember, it's a dry heat.
Hey, Greg, I'm not going to talk too loud because Keith's actually doing his job in the background. Not very well, but he is doing his job. Hopefully you'll work with some more talented people when you go to Arizona, and certainly some more talented meteorologists than Keith and I. Hope you have fun in Tucson. It's a fun town. I know you've lived there before, so I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Try not to melt in the heat during the summer, and you have some important decisions to make for the kids, especially Arizona State or Arizona. We'll just throw this on the stoop and see if the cat licks it up. Texas A&M University. It's a good school. I think you should think about sending all the kids there. Just get them out of the house. See what you can do about that. But on a serious note, have a good time. Hope you will enjoy the new job, and I'm sure you're going to be fantastic at it. Enjoyed working with you, filling in, and I hope you keep in touch.
Hey, Craig. I don't think I've ever seen anybody so energetic at 4 o'clock in the morning. You've really been able to brighten our day every day, whether it's just laughing about something that your family did, that your kids did, or frankly, what you did, whether it was on the air or not. You've just really been able to brighten our day, and we're really sad to see you go. Although, you know, you'll be a couple time zones away, but we can still call you early in the morning. And I guess I'll always remember you because you'll be the only person I know of that carries a fork in their hair care kit. So good luck, and come back whenever you get a chance.
Have fun.
Have a great time. It's been a blast.
Thank you. I'm going to not say a thing before I start crying on air.
Aww.
Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your life each and every morning. Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.